Howdy. I want to make a Ladiva guide. I really like playing the characters. I've had some good ideas of generally what you're supposed to do. She's more of your standard grappler archetype, with some good tools, like pretty strong neutral and so on. So I'm going to be covering a little bit of that in this guide today. Before I go into the video, I'm going to be using anime notation and common fighting game terms. So if you don't really know about what exactly I'm referring to whenever I say like RPS, Oki, then I recommend YouTubing it or like finding the appropriate resources and like the Discords or anything like that. I'm sure they're going to be around in there. But yeah, with that, I'm going to also leave a graphic right about here for timestamps. That way you can see when exactly you want to skip around, see, you know, oh, I know about all the buttons, I just want to go to Oki and combo theory and stuff like that. Then by all means, go ahead and do that. I also do want to preface as well that this is, it's about a little bit over 2 weeks now since the release, so there's a lot of room for the character to develop. This is also my take on it personally, so things could be more skewed. So if you have different opinions about, oh, maybe you think that this button is better than I give it credit, or maybe, you know, 5M is worse than I give it credit or whatever, then by all means have those opinions. It's good to not just be an echo chamber. There's also the fact that my frame data sheet is a bit, doesn't have everything. It now has active frames, but it doesn't really have like recovery or anything like that. So I'm just going to be generally hitting on the main point of startups, on block, and on hit frame data, unless stated otherwise. The dust loop will be updated at some point to have all of the frame data, as well as like move descriptions and so on. So if you want to check that out, I'll also have a link to that in the description. So with that all the way, I'm going to talk about our normals. I'm going to go over basic usage of each move, try to get more in-depth review of them whenever each section comes up. That, like, example being 5M is going to be more in the neutral and whatnot section, but I'm still going to talk a little bit about where everything is. But let's start with the close proximity normals. If you already know, or if you're really new to this game, each character has the like a 5L, like these 3 standard buttons. You also have the unique button, but whenever you're close, you have close proximity normals. So at certain ranges, you're going to be getting your 5L, but at other ranges, you're getting your close. It's the same idea for all 3 standard buttons. The unique button does not have a close proximity normal. Close 5L is really nice. I super like this button. It's 6 frame startup, so it's your fastest, like time for your fastest button. It's +3 on block. You can see here I have the frame advantage display on. This is going to be one of our main tools for pressure, just because, like I mentioned, +3 on block is super nice. You also, it's going to be Oki in some situations, but I'll hit on that in the Oki section. It also, just because the fact that you have +3 on block, it means that you can go for really easy setup with like frame traps, like all these being frame traps. Or if you get them to respect you enough, you can even go for like just a standard SPD. So that's something that you can really use to your advantage and your pressure game. +7 on hit also means that you're able to get a combo from itself or most any other button. Example being like right there, for example, or even like comboing it to itself. All those big 6 frames, it's super easy to combo all those. Showing off a little bit there, let's talk about close 5M. Close 5M is going to be 7 frame startup. It is mainly going to be used for combos, just because of the fact that it's +0 on block and +4 on hit. So on hit, you aren't able to go back into like the light, like I mentioned, just because of the recovery frames. You can see they're not a combo, but it does have a bit more damage. Like, for example, if we do just the regular, like just going for that, and then just go for the light, you can see just the difference in damage is going to already be like around 300, which is significant enough. It has better reach than close light in some situations, so it can catch people walking back, or certain like setups you're going to want to use close medium instead, just because of light either giving you the regular jab or just not being close enough in general. It's also nice as a reversal punish, because the fact that I can hit a lot of people while they're still in the air and get a route from it, that you can kind of see here. And you get a lot out of it just because of the fact that it's a faster button, and so you can catch people while they're falling. Compared to the next one we're talking about, where as a reversal punish, if I block and then just start mashing, they're going to be grounded, so you don't necessarily get as big as a punish in this particular scenario. But let's talk about it though. You do get a big punish from close heavy, as you can kind of just see the damage difference is huge. So it's really nice. Because it is a level 5 attack normal, on counter hit, it gives a ton of additional frames, so you're able to get really big combos from it for really low commitment in terms of your resources. Besides that, I don't really use it for much else. It's 12 frame startup, it's -2 on block, +2 on hit. If you're landing this, you aren't really caring too much about it on hit. You want to care more about getting your huge damage. Being -2 on block means that you can really mash out of it. It does have a lot of active frames though. You can hit it really meaty, but in a lot of situations you don't really need that just because you have close 5L. So kind of alternate if you want to. Like mentioned with the counter hit state, if I set the opponent to counter hit though, like I get a ton of damage from this. So I can either get 2 chops or I can even get this headbutt, which already just from that alone is going to be a good chunk of damage. So as a counter hit punish, this is huge. You can also use it if you have a read that your opponent's gonna be mashing and you want to explode them. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the more standard normals, like the longer range. 5L, to start things off. It's a pretty good poke. It's got pretty decent frame data. It's really close to close 5L, so I'd say it's actually really nice. It's 6 frame startup, +3 on block, +7 on hit. So kind of like mentioned on prior, you can combo it into itself, which is super nice in general, just because you're able to really like that little bit of a confirm off of it. Also have the advantage of walk blocking. It does have a lot of pushback though, so you need to like stagger when you're walk blocking. It's really good if you're trying to whiff punish things like Fairy 5M or any of those normals that you generally don't want to be using 5M for. You can also, if you have them meter, you can kind of just buffer. If you're confident you're like, hey, like especially in the fairy matchup, if you're confident you're gonna whiff punish, you can buffer the shortcut super really easily with this, and you're able to get a ton of reward off. I have a hard time doing buffer the regular way, and there's no real difference in this sort of like in this scenario about it. I recommend using it. There's also a neat trick because it's +3 on block, and like mentioned, you can walk people down with it. You can buffer SPD and then do a walking SPD with it. And then you're able to get your Oki setup from it, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. This is my favorite button on Ladiva. It is so good. 5M is 8 frame startup. It is -6 on block, -2 on hit. So you're probably hearing -6 on block and you're thinking, oh, that kind of sucks. If I space it in this like spot here, if I set him to standing light, well, not that range, but at this range, it can be punishable. As you see there, the punish icon's on my screen. But it's all about your spacing. This button has that little bit of forward movement, so that way you can able to space it out and really get a lot out of it. You can also do a follow-up with a buffer lariat and get a ton of damage from that. If the opponent mashes or attempts to punish it, it can also be a way for the opponent to kind of respect this button more. You can also just do it again and punish mash attempts. Certain matchups you're going to want to space out like exactly at this like tipper range, like Catalina, just because she has a far 5L, and the same for Percival as well, just because of the fact that they have really long 5Ls. It's honestly really threatening just because it's a little bit more difficult to whiff punish it, because the fact that it kind of goes away, like you can see on whiff here, it kind of just goes away really quick. So it's definitely whiff punishable, but it's hard. Plus also faster startup makes it a little bit more difficult. Now 5H is also very similar to close heavy in the sense that it's a big punish option, or if you need a little bit additional range compared to 5M, as you kind of see it moves forward a lot more and has a lot more reach than like 5M. I'm not a big fan of it though. It's 13 frame startup, it's -8 on block, and it's -4 on hit. So if I set him to do like this, I'm pretty sure is 8 frames. Yeah, actually just punishes me for pressing it. You want to be really careful on where you place it, just because it's not really good as a poke, because of the fact that you have to be spaced out really far to avoid getting punished with it. Just being minus in general means even if you're not getting punished, you're still losing your turn. It's good for like punishing moves that can put the opponent really far away, or if you really need the additional range, like against against Charlotta's super, if you use 5H, just because it's consistently going to punish it if you do block it. You can also spot dodge it, get bigger punishes, but in the sake that you're assuming you blocked it, 2L is going to also be a pretty good button. It's very similar to 5L that we talked about a little bit earlier, but it's also 6 frame startup. it is +2 on block and +6 on hit. So a frame off from both the other mentioned light. It's actually pretty good. +6 on hit also means I can combo to the other lights. So you can get something like that or anything like that. Any combos from there. I'll have combos later in the video. It being a little bit worse by frame on block means that it's a little bit easier actually to set up for more consistent SPDs. So you could do like slight delay, like a super slight delay on the medium, and it pretty much hits the big frames where you need it to, where they come out of the throw and bolt state after blocking. And we're going to be visiting this setup in particular a little bit more later with 5 EX headbutt. Now, one of my other favorite buttons with Ladiva is going to be this 2M. It is super nice. I kind of consider it more as the defensive 5M, just because mentioned 5M moves a little bit forward, is more of a whiff punish option and more for neutral. It doesn't move you forward at all. It has a very similar poke. It's about a little bit smaller, I think, but it has a really nice range to it. It is a low, so you can kind of see I have the opponent set to swap block, and so he has to block low. Yeah, it's also the same frame startup as 2M, well 5M rather. It is -2 on block, it is +2 on hit with an 8 frame startup. So it's really useful in situations against like fairy 2M, or more general like neutral situations where you want to be more on the defensive side and like you're trying to risk not getting whiff punished as much. The way I think about it is using 5M for more offensive neutral stuff and 2M for more defensive neutral stuff. I really like this button. I use it a ton. Let's talk about our anti-air. 2H. So 2H is going to be this right here. Moves forward a little bit. It has 2 hits, as you can kind of see here. I like it as an anti-air. It's okay. It's gonna be 11 frame startup, -8 on block, +2 on hit. So you don't want to ever use this on block, or it's just gonna get punished. You only really use it as an anti-air unless you're caught out and you accidentally use it for pressures for whatever reason, or like for a combo. I would not recommend it, but it's nice. It is special cancelable, and I didn't mention it prior, but all the buttons I've mentioned so far are special cancelable. As an anti-air, it's pretty okay. So if I record like the round start, you're able to get like this cancel into a good chunk of damage. You also are able to kind of choose when you want to use it. So from here, if I want to just go for no lariat and just let both hits rock, I can do that as well. So like, you can kind of see what I'm referring to. Yeah, you get the idea though. You kind of have some creativity with how you want to use the multi-hits of it. So you kind of see here, I should be able to get medium lariat. Yeah. Whereas otherwise, I generally just use the 1 hit into lariat and go for something like this. So yeah, that's something that's super nice. It can get tough at times if it's like a low hit or anything like that. Like, it's able to get some Matura as a forward movement, like forward hop. But that's just one where you want to use this, like, do like this type of buffer against it. But so that's gonna be more of her standardized buttons. Now let's talk about her unique buttons. So first things first, let's talk about the 5U. It is a forward moving command throw, and you have 3 options off of it. You have this forward one with no follow-up, and you can kind of see where he kind of just bounces. Your full screen just drops there. It does have 2 follow-ups. If you do the medium, they will screen bounce, so you're able to get a combo from it anywhere on screen from 2M. In the corner, if you're back to the wall, you want to walk forward a little bit and do it. Yeah, like that. It's a little bit harder to combo from this one in the corner, but just some practice, do a little micro run, and you'll be set. The other follow-up, which is going to be the heavy version, sends them to Sky High. It's mid-screen, you only get a combo from it with Lariat, like EX Lariat, or you can use Light Lariat, but it's not really as rewarding. So generally, EX Lariat into most anything is going to be your combo here. But I wouldn't recommend this personally, using it mid-screen, unless you're confident that they're going to become get super close to the corner, in which case you can do something like this. if you want to burn all your EXs and just get some decent enough damage. In the corner, it's just huge reward, just because of the fact that you're able to get hit really late into active frames of the close heavies. And so you're able to get something like this without super. Yeah, like the damage if you want to cash into a super is gonna be so rewarding. If it's like, you know, your like last situation, like boom. I'm sure there's more damaging combos you can get from this, but overall, this is just kind of something that I've been doing. Yeah, all in all, it is a good option on offense if you want to get, if you're really looking to cash in a ton of damage. The big problem with this move is that it's 37 frame startup. To give reference, most people can react between like the 18, 17 frame area, maybe 16 frames if you're you know, on an energy drink or anything like that. But generally speaking, you're reacting to at least like 19 frame, 20 frame, whatnot, if you consider like net play. So 37 frames is, if you look at it from like that 17 frame standpoint, is double reactable. It gets punished on accident a ton. Like, people just panic and be like, oh wow, I'm gonna press a jab or press like a medium even, and you can react to it and even get like a heavy. Like in the mirror match, if you see it, you can go for a close heavy. And it's also counter hit state the entire time, so if I even like record where Grand throws a heavy, like, you get such a big hit from it. And kind of like mentioned earlier with Ladiva, you get counter hit this and this, and you just get tons of damage. So it's real. You have to really mask your way of using it, which typically can be done with like a 5M, which can be kind of nice, but overall, use super sparingly. You really only going to use it from this, and it can kind of promote mashing from here. So that means your lariats are going to be more effective. All I have to say, it is a really strong offensive option. However, you want to use it, notice that your opponent has not really contested certain options, or if you think that if they have reactions like a snail, or any sort of deal like that, where you know that for a fact that they are not reacting. So she also has a drop kick on the 2U. 2U is going to be really nice because you can combo it from jabs, because like mentioned, it is 7 frame startup, and so both standing and close light are +7 on block, so it's just a quick link. So you're able to get a hard knockdown in most any situation, and then you can get your meaty from it, which is really good. And the meaty here is ridiculous, but I'll cover more of that at Oki. It could be anywhere from -20 to -14 on block. So kind of like mentioned where 5U is incredibly punishable, 2U is also incredibly punishable, but on block. You want to really only use it whenever you're you're going to get the combo. But with that in mind, that covers all of her standing normals. Let's talk about her jumping normals. It's gonna be pretty good. I think it's pretty fast startup. It's like 6 frame startup, but it also is one of her only 2 cross-up options. So generally speaking, you can use this if you're like super jump, but you want to be ambiguous on which side you're on. So that could be pretty nice, but you don't really want to be doing as aggressive jumps like that, at least in my opinion. It's also nice because the fact that it has the least amount of hidden block stun out of all of her options. You can set up for really easy like strike throw mix up here, because it is plus still, but it's only slightly plus. Even on hit, if I like set up to like not block, the fact that it has so little hit stun means that the usual timing that you want to delay for the medium SPE covers both options, so you don't mix yourself up by whenever they get hit. So it's pretty good. But personally, for like jump ins and whatnot, unless if you're not worried about crossing up in any way, I use this. JM is really fucking good. It's 7 frame startup, which is good because of the fact that it anti-airs pretty well, or air-to-airs rather. Pretty good enough air-to-air. It's great for jump ins, like kind of like shown earlier, where this thing just doesn't whiff. It's so active. It has so much coverage for like a jump in option. It's super nice. You can convert air-to-air counter hits into full combos. Like you can kind of see there. Like the air-to-air game for it is really good, so it could be used to contest in a lot of good situations. It's also your main safe jump from something like light SPD. If you want to go for the standard safe jump, it's just so good for it. And because of the fact that it sets up another situation, kind of mentioned with Jump Light, where you can also delay medium SPD a little bit and get it, as well as if they try to jump out, you can get 2M here. So that's really, really nice. The only downside to it is the fact that if they get hit here, you have to delay the medium SPD a little bit more, like here, to really go for it. So kind of keep that in mind. It could be useful to use Jump Light in this situation, but you do also naturally combo it to 2M if hit low enough. So yeah, keep that in mind. It's good. It's a really good option. I am not a huge fan of this button. Jump Heavy, I personally don't like that much. It is like what, 12 frames? 11 frames startup. It's kind of inconsistent in my experience with jumping it on crouch. It can be useful to mix it in every once in a while, but overall, it's not a bad button, I don't think, but I'm not a huge believer in it. I personally think jump in more is for the JM area, but always feel free to mix it up. Now this is another one that I'm kind of iffy on. I jump splash, like the splash is really meh for board jump ins. So if you try to do like super jump this, it'll connect like sometimes, but like you can really run into some issues. However, as a cross up, it is mad good. It's got a huge cross up angle, so like even for like here, if you super jump, you're gonna get it. I think from point blank, like point blank regular jump, barely is out of range. So like it's super nice. It's a little bit more deceptive, like mentioned. So I only really use it if I know for a fact I want to cross up or in my situation I'm going to cross up. Just keep that in mind. Keep in mind though that a lot of these are going to be kind of dangerous to use as a jump in, just because of the fact that unless you have a setup for it, you're kind of asking to get anti-aired. Use it sparingly, but it's nice to show that you're willing to at least jump sometimes. The last things I really want to talk about is going to be her auto combo. It's really standard. You're going to be getting stuff like where you get the elbow into the kick. Elbow is going to be minus like 3, and the ending is going to be minus 4. Mostly just combo filler, stuff like that. I use a lot of the second and here, but the kick can be also useful for the next move we're going to talk about, which is going to be your headbutt series. Headbutts, I think, are really good just for the fact that they set up for good frame traps, because if I set the opponent here to mash on block, kind of like mentioned, if you go to the end of the auto combo and go for light headbutt, it frame traps. So they could DP it, but you can also like just block and you're still safe after the auto combo. The light version is 20 frame startup, -2 on block, and +3 on hit. So that could be pretty nice. So generally, if the opponent recognizes they blocked it, you are going to be at a disadvantage, so you can want to be hesitant to mash. You can, in some situations, they'll respect you a lot, but you want to be careful about it. +3 on hit, kind of same old. You could use it as a ender for a restand, or like leave the opponent standing if you want, and so then plus frames at that point, and then you're able to really contest from there, so it could be a good option. I should also note that on any of these hit in combo, it forces the opponent to crouch. The medium version is actually 28 frame startup, so this is the light, this is the medium. You can kind of see the difference here. Only 8 additional frames, and it's more in this like this section here where she's reeling back and ready to rumble. This one is going to be reactable in the SIDS, so it's punishable with like a reversal with weak to mashing, but it is +2 on block and +7 on hit. +2 on block meaning that you can't mash after it, and it also sets up for throw mix-up afterwards, which is on block, which is really nice. +7 on hit also means the fact that we can combo into jabs, which is super nice. It's nice to mix these two up, or on block mainly, the fact that this loses, like if they try to mash, like then this gets blown up, and so if you kind of condition your opponent to not mash here, you can kind of go for this for plus frames. So if the opponent recognizes that it's medium headbutt and mashes a little bit too late, it gets counter hit for, they actually eat so much damage. Like, that's so good. Granted, it's not gonna happen always, but it could be just an example of how the rule mix-up there works. But she also has the EX version, which is really nice. So EX is actually faster than Light. It's 18 frame startup compared to Light's 20. It is +2 on block, very similar to the medium version. As you can see here, I'm advantage is +2. It's also +11 on hit, in my opinion. I don't know for sure if that's the case, but my frame data sheet originally said +13. But so it is very plus on hit, it's plus on block, it's faster startup. It's a really good option. Example being from like 2M, where this doesn't normally combo and it doesn't even frame trap. This combos and frame traps. It also has 3 follow-ups. The third hit forces a knockdown, which you could then block or jab for a meaty, which is pretty nice. As well as if you can do the second one, I've kind of shown it off in some of the combos so far that I've highlighted, is that you get them to continue standing, which is pretty nice. So you can kind of choose between the two. I recommend always going for just the 2 and then going for this extension, because as long as you have the execution for it to consistently work, like there you're getting from 5M buffer to the 6H, you get 2700, whereas if you just go for it, you like 300 damage less and similar Oki. It really comes down to which one you're more confident in. I would recommend practicing the other one though, just because it's really nice. But again, don't feel free to mix them up, or if you don't need the extra damage, you don't need the extra damage, you know? The follow-ups on block also reduce everything by like 2 frames on block. So example being that the second hit is minus or even on block. You can kind of see here even, and the last hit is -2 on block, so I can't take my turn back. You can DP through all these. There is a gap, so if the opponent knows this, they can DP the gaps. But it also does frame trap, so if I set them to instead just do standing mash, they get exploded for it. But I think that covers most everything I want to note about her headbutt for now. I'm going to talk about Lariat. Lariat is probably one of her biggest tools in terms of neutral, in terms of combos, and damage. Lariat, shown a little bit here, is really nice. So the light version is 18 frame startup, which is the one you see here. Medium is going to be 35 frame startup, so it's much more situational. And EX1 is also 18 frame startup, so it's pretty nice. All of these do whiff on crouch, so I just want to go and let you know that right now. They will always whiff on crouch. There are setups for where it can meaty a crouching opponent. You time it right, like that, where it guard crushes. And I should also mention while we're at it that you probably noticed it, but it guard crushes standing. So that's pretty good. It's really good. Plus you're +5 on guard crush with the light and with the EX. However, the big thing is that the medium one, even though 35 frame startup, is +6, so you're guaranteed to get the combo here, which is just dangle neat. You're gonna use this a lot in your buffer game, so like mentioned, like a little bit with the 5M situation, because of its like more negative frame data, it can encourage mash, in which case, if they start mashing against this, like they just eat 1,000,000 damage. So that's super nice. You want to be careful about using it all the time as your buffer option, because the fact that if they're crouching, you'll whiff and then you die. But it also should be noted that if I set the opponent to mash a crouching button as well, they will all still get hit. It only matters if they are crouch blocking. The reward for if they mash here, like you're seeing it like a little bit from what I've been doing, is just really high. Like, I'm cashing in the EX headbutt when I really shouldn't be in a lot of the examples I've been doing, but you can kind of just see there, 5k from saying you want to mash against a -6 button is really, really nice. Yeah, like you can see from like that situation, 5k from just something like this. Like the counter hit reward from this move is great, just because of the fact that people start mashing after that. You get counter hit lariat, and then you're just able to convert it into so much damage, whether it be something like this if you want to cash in the EX headbutt for that nice 5.4. Otherwise, you can go for something like this, and like just something like this, which is a little bit more consistent. We were like 4.8. You can use something like this mid-screen as well and still get that fresh 4k damage. But all that to say is you get a ton of reward from it. It encourages people to crouch more, which can be really nice. So then once they start crouching this, you're able to really like force things or even go for like the headbutt there. It also should be noted the fact that the EX version, like all EX moves in this game, does provide a hard knockdown. So if you get something like this, you can kind of see the down symbol there is going to mean that you're able to get a safe jump from it, which is super nice. In case you don't want to do something like this, or if you didn't want to go into like super. Boom. So all that to say is that it's a really good option. It's also really good for combos and whatnot. It also should be noted that while running, if you're running, you can cancel it into this, which could be really nice to mix in every once in a while. I don't know if it adds any additional distance, like outside just the fact that you're running with it a little bit, but all in all, pretty good. There's a Japanese player, Granblue, who uses this option a lot, like the running lariat. I haven't used it as much personally, so definitely watch what he does with it, and it just looks magical. Now let's talk about the spinning pile driver, SPD 360. Showing off a little bit here, you have the light version, you have the medium version, and you have the EX version. So all these are your standard, 360 motion command throw if you're familiar with Zangief, Iron Tiger, just your standard big grapple. So the light version and the EX version are all 6 frame startup. The medium version is 9 frame startup. They're about as fast as slower jabs in this game. Kind of highlighted there, you get a safe jump from all of them. In terms of ranges, light is definitely the shortest. You can see this doesn't work. Medium is the furthest range with the most startup. And EX is just about similar range, but it's just a little bit more off, like a little bit off from medium. So just keep that in mind. The longest is medium, second is EX, last one is light. You get a big reward for conditioning them to continue crouch block. It was kind of mentioned earlier, but you can do like jab, walk forward, SPD as like a frame trap or as a means to get the opponent to start mashing again, which where frame traps work, again, strike, throw, mix up. All of them now, I do need to know. I actually forgot to write in the script because I forgot people use it. It does have 2 follow-ups on the SPDs. If you hold light, he takes off the mask and then suddenly the mask is raised up. So then you can see your face and whatnot. But if you hold medium as well, you get a taunt. Those are cool, but only use those if you just won. there's one exact time that these should be used. So you can see here I've set the opponent's health to 1. SPD kills, and now I can hold my preferred one. I'm gonna hold light. And then in a real match, it would take it off. So that's the only time you use this. From light SPD, you're even. You're 0 or even minus, possibly. But from medium SPD, you are plus in both situations, but you lose safe jump. And the safe jump is where you get so much of your mix-up from. So never use this. Please, I beg you, only use this when you're about to kill. If you win, if it says the words victory on the screen, or perfect or whatever, only use it then. Please, just get the safe jump. It is so good. You can even do walk forward or anything. Just don't do that. Just don't do the one thing, please. But with that out of the way, let's talk about her final special. I've shown off a little bit. It is her anti-air command throw. It's a DP input. It can be used as a anti-air in some situations. It's kind of niche as an anti-air in my opinion, just because of the fact that the times it does work, 2H just works better in my opinion. Like, why would I go for this? Which just gives me, to give reference, this does 1 million damage, right? Like, and that wasn't an optimal combo. Whereas this gives me, or even if I spin the EX instead, I think this is better. There are some times where I guess like Lancelot's super, this can punish, but again, it's kind of risky just because of the fact that it's possible to whiff it and then you just eat a full super raw. The light and EX ones are 11 frame startup, which same as 2H, so, and the medium one is 17 frames. These are really nice in terms of for like knockdown and stuff like that, just because of the fact that kind of shown in a lot of my combos, you'll see where I like ended the anti-air command throw. Like right here, you've seen, and you could go and you see all the combos I was doing with it. Even mid-screen, if the opponent is just jumping, you can always whiff a jab and get a safe jump from it. Also, I should note that the fact that the medium and the EX versions provide more corner carry, so you can kind of see from this position, Gran is kind of at that little like wind turbulence there. If I get the medium version, get much closer to the corner, and then I think the EX one is around the same distance. Yeah, a little bit more. Leaves you a little bit closer. But all of them provide a safe jump. A good medium and EX, you want to whiff a jab, and in the case of the light, you just want to super jump as early as possible. As for her more universal commands, she has throw, which actually is kind of unique because of the fact that it leaves them standing. Your plus here, you guys see on the frame data thing there. So if I set the opponent to mash, like mash on it, I can get a close medium. So I'm at like +3, I think it is, which is pretty cool. You also get a safe jump from back throw. It's not as good as some of the other ones we've talked about, but it barely reaches. It's pretty cool. Her air throw as well is very similar to the back throw in the sense that you get a safe jump from it. Also noting that the SPDs are also all air okay. These are pretty okay. It can also be interesting because if you do medium, if you alternate between going for the medium and the light, you can get, the medium gives you like this weird timing where you can get the cross up or not cross up. Whereas the light, if you go for the super jump, you're always crossing up. So you could, unless the opponent knows exactly which one you use or catches on to which one you use, then you can kind of go for these cool mix-up options. EX1 is very just similar. EX1 is just similar to the medium knockdown, but it is a little bit more prone to DPs, so just keep that in mind. If you do it right, it should be DP safe like it is there. Her overhead is kind of just either the universal stuff. 26 frames, 6 active frames, -4 on block, +1 on hit, so it is safe on block. You can cancel it as well into, it's just your standard universal overhead. It can be useful at times just to encourage the opponent to even stay on block at that point. It is reactable, so, you know, block low, react to the high can kind of mess with it. So while I was editing this video, I realized that I actually totally forgot to record her supers. And explain those, so let's get those out of the way real quick. Double quarter circle forward heavy is going to be this kind of lunge attack. It has a real fun animation where it just gives him the skabop. Pretty good damage, all things considered. It's projectile bolt. So if I have a recording here of Gran throwing a punch and then fireballing, if I react to the fireball, you'll notice there I get the counter, I get a punish, and yeah, just go straight through the fireballs. It's really game changing. It's like the Matura matchup. So it's like a cash out situation where if you can react, it's also good in the like fairy matchup, for example. If they like to do far medium or far heavy into GG, you can react to GG and then get a punish. Besides that, it's just your standard confirm super. You can use that at any life total, so don't necessarily need to worry about that compared to like the super sky art. 2M into this is like a very common confirm. You can see it from situations like this where it's going to confirm. Yeah, cash out if you need some damage. If not, keep a hold of that super meter in case you need it for bad neutral situation. For second super, it's going to be double quarter circle back heavy or quarter circle back ability button. As you can see here, it's just a short range command throw. Basically, the reach is going to be basically if you're touching toes. Then at the moment you like stop touching toes with like Gran, you're out of range. Which is real fucking close. So it is really good as a reversal though, because the fact you can see here in this recording, I'm gonna have Gran do his sweep into safe jump and then hold up afterwards. So we get hit by this, and if I wake up with this and don't plug the inputs, then I get to punish him even though he's recording up. It's just the fact that you're touching landing frames. So he can't do anything about it. So you can call out safe jumps pretty reliably as long as they end up with you being close range. The safe jump, depending on the character's safe jump, as long as they're close range, you should be able to break out of it. So keep that in mind if you're getting pressed. So there's a few downsides of these supers. I'm just going to start with the forward motion one. So it's not strike and volt. So if I set like a recording here of Gran doing heavy, then like right here, I should get hit. Yeah. So keep that in mind. People will bait that a lot where they're gonna do like where normally Gran will do like fireball instead. Like here, he could do something like whiff or like whiff buttons to make it harder to react to and then go for it. It's a really standard approach to that type of super interaction with fireballs. So you really need to be reacting to specifics. So make sure just to practice what frames you're reacting to. Super Sky Art, which is going to be the 720U. 720 meaning you just do a 360 motion twice. I can't do a standing 720, so if you can do those, cool. But I just go with use this primarily as a combo tool or a wake up option if I really need to bust out. You get this fun animation. If you get to the 3 and you know it kills them, then you get a really fun in screen. If you don't, like you saw there, they tap in, well, they break the hold rather, and then you're back to fighting. It has some merit because of the fact that it is like, if we record this situation again with the safe jump. So it's really good because it has some merit to it. I only really use it as a combo filler, but it has some merit as like a wake up option if you use the same recording I had earlier with graduate sweep and a safe jump. If you get the 720, it is strike and volt, so you're able to go through it and then catch them out. You're not going to really see it much use outside of like a wake up or a combo extension. It's a little, because it's a 720, so you're not going to be getting like you're not going to be getting the same like buffers that you would for like jab SPD, right? Like if you do it like right here, if you miss, it is hella punishable, and on hit, yeah, you get a pretty, or like a successful mix, if you get a pretty good reward for it. So you can always leave that option on the table. You know, for both command throw supers, they're actually +0 after flash, meaning that they can't react to the super flash animation and hold up. Whatever they're inputting, they're stuck with. We talked about the universal stuff, we talked about the buttons, the specials, and the supers. Let's talk about our neutral. And I think our neutral is surprisingly okay. To preface all this, do note that neutral is a very, very dynamic thing in fighting games in general, so it's very difficult for me to give you a just write-off on what exactly you should be doing in neutral and what is like always the right answer, etc, etc. So just note that before going into this. I'm just going to give a very generic example of what I'm doing typically in most matchups, like a more universal thing, and then playing around from there. So typically I'm getting into either their poke range or my poke range. So like against Gran, I'm about here because the fact that 5 am at this range and with punish him. So like examples against like Gran and other like poke characters is that at this, I'm staying at this range so I can, my 5M can get to them. If not, I'm walking into this range to where I'm getting tip of 5M. And here's where the buffers come into play, because again, this is -6, so this is definitely punishable on block. So I'm getting into this range and I'm expecting them to start punishing. And I know if I notice they start pressing buttons after this, I can start going for a lariat. You go for those counter hits like I highlighted earlier in the video. So the way I'm getting into these 5M ranges, from like this range for example, is just this slow walk block. So if they start going for stuff like fireball, I can react to it at certain ranges and go for like this here, or like example, if I'm at this range, I'm not really needed to approach anymore, so I can just go for more of the 5M, right? So generally playing around your spaces, like playing around your spacing to make sure that you're getting in range for these whip punishes. Something to note about your buffers at this range. So if you are the one in the poke range right at the tip, light lariat always works. If they are just a little bit, like if you're like a little bit into it, like right around here, yeah, light lariat combos here. But now if you're at like this range, like at round start, if they throw out medium, you're not comboing that lariat. So you need to get the light version, well the EX version in there instead of the light to make sure it's a consistent confirm. So in situations where you think your opponent isn't going to mash and you can provoke them to mash from using 5M a ton, is that you could go for something like this, because the medium hits a little bit later, you're getting additional plus frames. You can also abuse the fact that you can also abuse medium headbutt there to encourage mash, but if they start reacting to the real back that the headbutt does, then you can start going for light here to counteract mash attempts, or like reactionary mash. So keep all that in mind. Talk the combo theory offense Oki. I have all these kind of bundled to the same thing because they're all kind of tied in together pretty well. So once you take advantage from neutral and get your offense started, like I mentioned, you want to use your lights and frame trap a ton, and then kind of like walk your way in to get either SPD or like just get a frame trap into this and then get your knockdown. Right, it's pretty straightforward in that regard. You can also just use your regular throw, and then from there you set up medium SPD. You can set up for buttons. Right, you can set up for buttons that way. You want to encourage your opponent to wiggle, because their main way out of throw SPD mix up is going to be jump. So I'm gonna have my opponent set to whenever they block, they are going to jump, right? The first frame they can jump, they're going to start jumping. So as you can see here, because this frame traps, they can't jump out of this. But they can jump out of if I go for medium SPD here. So they want to start jumping, which means that you're either catching them out for jumping with a frame trap, or if you could go for something like this, and either guard crush them, or if they're, like if you do it a little bit more delayed, you could go for something like, if you delay it just slightly, you can get an airborne hit and start a combo from it. Or even from like this poke range, you can get more damage off of it this way. So once the opponent stops wiggling, right, they start, you know, I'm so scared, I'm up backing a touch. Now they're like, you know what, I'm gonna crouch this time. And if you get the SPD, you want to do your safe jump. From this safe jump, this is typically what you're gonna be seeing a lot of. Is this 2M catch. So that is an accurate representation of if the opponent blocks the safe jump and it tries to jump out of it, right? But why would they want to jump out? Why is it where at that exact moment I'm holding them? Well, it's because from this same safe jump, you can go for medium command throw. And if the opponent just set it to do nothing on block like I had earlier, you go for the light SPD, you go for this, and if you time it right, you get the safe jump. Like I mentioned earlier, though, you do have to delay this a little bit, so you can block confirm the you can block confirm it, and then you just go for it again, and then from here, and so on. Oh, if you even want, you can skip the safe jump entirely if you're worried about that, and just use the fact of empty jump low. You can use the fact that shown there that you can just do empty jump throw, or even just command throw, empty jump low, and set things up. Like, these are just really good options. So it really promotes wake up, like this wake up 50-50 situation. It can also promote fuzzy blocking and spot dodge. But if the opponent on wake up likes to do spot dodge, we can contest that actually. So from here, they're gonna do wake up spot dodge. If I go for the safe jump and recognize that they like dodged it, I can either go for a SPD to punish the dodge, or if you're really convinced with it, you could go for more of a 2M, like a delayed 2M. And then get the same setup. And then from there, kind of go with whatever you want for your Oki. So I mentioned prior, and I've shown the routes a little bit here. You're gonna have two general routing options, and then the little sub bars from there. So for starters, I'm gonna break down the 236L, or 236H rather, situations. So I've shown where I do 236HH, right? And then you get a knockdown here. So sweep knockdown is really nice because the fact that she has like 3 recovery frames, what it feels like. I don't have the entire thing at the time of recording, but it should be. I feel like it's like 3 frames, so like 3 active frames, and Grand's DP is 7 frames. So from this, you're able to get a reversal safe meaty. So if you go like from this type of situation, if you time it wrong, it's not gonna work. But if you time it right, it is gonna work. And then you get your full route, right? And so it's reversal safe meaty. That is, if hitting meaty around like the meatiest frame, which is like I feel the 3rd active frame, or even the 2nd, it's +4 to +5 on block. So it's an incredibly plus on block reversal safe option. So these are the 2 main things I go around: is safe jump JM, because it's an incredibly safe option. It's safe against reversals. Even like on jump-ins against like wake up supers, it can be really effective. Same idea with this one here. Because you recover so fast, if I set the opponent on wake up to, instead of like dodge here, let's just say he just does wake up super skybound art, right? I can react with a roll and get the appropriate punish, which can be really useful, especially against like characters that you can like roll through and just like go for this like big damaging super cash out or anything like that. Or even if you want to do something more simple and just like roll through command throw, you get the repeatable option like we mentioned earlier. So that's the idea of going for the sweep knockdown from 2d6H. The other general routing you're going to have from 2d6H is actually a command throw reset, is delay, medium, SPD. Because of the fact that, again, 2L's a little bit worse on hit than 5L, it makes it actually pretty easy to set this up. You won't have to delay it though. You still have to delay it. So just going for this can be a big factor. So then it makes it to where they want to wiggle out of this situation, right? They know you hit this once before. If I set my opponent now to on hit jump, you can do delay to him, and then now you're getting the corner and a 4K reset. And then if you go into super, you more than likely kill from the situation. Oh, just barely off. So that's your two reset options for that. You got either 2L as medium SPD, 2L bait the reversal, or 2L delay, like walk back 5M, because like mentioned, from this you just get tons of reward from it. So like, so those are the big reset options from the headbutt routing, as well as the general reason why you want to go for sweep in a lot of situations where you're knocked out. So EX Larry is your other route. It's going to be generally from most either standing opponents or from airborne hits. And all it really is just like from 5M you do it, and then your main cash out is going to be like 2M super, because it just connects for a ton of damage. So against grounded opponents, you don't do much else besides this, because like unless you have the super, because you want to do the safe jump. You could do 2U, but as you kind of see here, I don't get a safe jump from it. So what you really want to do in this situation is, if you do want to cash out for that little bit of extra damage from 2U, you just do the reversal jab Oki. So against the aerial opponent, it's actually kind of good because you can get 2U, and then you can go for not only a safe jump, but it also you can set up for a cross-up body splash. So like in this situation, if I go for this one, and because it hits higher up, I get the body splash, and it is a cross-up safe jump. And that's from pretty much most height, but you hit him low to the ground about like here. You can see I still get a safe jump, but it doesn't cross up, so you need to recognize the height. Honestly though, for most situations it is going to cross up. The other time you've seen this route is in the corner, because you're able just to get EX Lariat into DP knockdown, which is really good, as already stated. In the corner as well, you're able to get longer startup buttons if you hit them airborne. So like example is here. If you want to cash out literally all the moves, you're able to go for that. You can go for more optimized stuff, like if you go for close heavy, but I find close heavy to be a little bit worse to get consistently, whereas this is really consistent and allows you to combo into the close heavy from that situation. Whereas other times the close heavy is going to be based off when you how high the opponent was prior, and they're not high enough to get that bounce, so you have to go for a medium. So I find this is going to be the better route. That's going to be wrapping up my guide. I know that I said that there would be combos at the end of the video, however, it's already like going on an hour, so I don't really want to extend that any longer. So with that in mind, I'm going to make an entire separate video. It should be up like here, where I'll put like a little card or whatever the YouTube shit is. Now all the combos I show in that video are going to be fully optimized. It's kind of just giving you an idea of what your general routing should be, and then with less like super specific shit. I just got back from Super TSB, which is why it took a little bit longer for me to finish up this guide. But with that, I also did get a lot of match footage, so I was able to play folks like Native, folks like Gears, Unsafe on Hit, and so on. That's going to be all on my channel. There's also some other recorded matches that I hope could go up soon against like Fame and Tempest. So you can kind of see those, see what my approach is and whatnot. It was my first time playing offline, and this game is fucking sick offline. But with that in mind, thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook gaming, Instagram Live, and OnlyFans.